What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mic'd Up, where I invite some of my amazing friends to do amazing stuff all around the world to do one-of-a-kind interviews, because the relationship is always better when the conversation is authentic, and everything's just so much better when they're actually people that you know personally. Today I have somebody very special. You guys know him by Ronnie 2K.
What's going on?
But his full name is Ronnie Singh.
Correct. Yep.
Real quick, just give them a little bit of background, because Ronnie Singh is culture-wise, that's Indian.
Yeah, I'm Indian, first generation. My parents were, one of them was born in, actually they were both born in India. My dad lived in London for a long time in his life, but yeah, I was the first kid in my family to be born here in America.
Okay, dope. And you know, it's crazy. We have the episode before this one, we had Miss India.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people from the Indian culture on this episode, so we've dived right deep into it, actually, in a couple episodes.
Nice.
So let's go right into you, Ronnie 2K.
Yeah.
Can you give me a quick background on how that last name even, like, how did those two names even connect?
So I've been at 2K for almost 17 years. I am the face of the franchise. I do all of our forward-facing things. I mean, that was never really supposed to be what happened. Really, like, we had social media and the explosion around that, and you know, I really figured out a way to harness it. But at the same time, like, content became such a important way that we would communicate with our fans. And I mean, before 2K, I was a huge 2K fan. My dog's whining. I was a huge 2K fan that now gets to represent the company. So, like, what's cool about that is I just get to, you know, live out what I would have done anyway, which is be a fan of this franchise, but do it as the public spokesperson of the company. With that comes good things, and with that comes tough things. Some of the tougher things, obviously, is I'm the guy behind talking about player ratings. What's great about that is I have great friends who are NBA players and guys that I hang out with all the time, and then I have NBA players who are never happy with me because their rating is too low and this game means so much to them. So it's, you know, that counterbalance is always fun, but
There's a little bit good and a little bit evil.
you can let her out, by the way.
Yeah, let's let the dog in.
She could.
My dog's made every whenever I filmed an episode.
That door, so she does. No, yeah.
Every episode I've ever filmed at my house has always had my dogs.
You want to sit? Come sit. Come here. Come on. Is it too high for you?
Yeah, there she is. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a million interviews about all of that, so I don't want to go into that. What I want to go into is Mr. Ronnie Singh.
Yeah.
So, first generation, born in where were you born?
I was born in Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
Did you go to high school in Florida as well?
No, I spent most of my childhood bouncing around. My parents were really not very well off, so we moved a lot. But we settled actually in north of San Francisco in Marin County, California. And so starting at 6 years old, that's where I grew up and lived. And I lived there until I went to college
in San Francisco.
Yeah, but you know, we lived in a very affluent white area, very white. I was the first Indian kid to come through our school system, one of the first, like, brown kids, period. Obviously we had some Latinos, we had a few blacks, but mostly it was a very white area. And so I also wore a turban. I had hair down to my knees.
You did. You had. I have a lot of friends like that.
I didn't cut my hair until I was 20 years old. So I spent that whole time, you know, looking very different and trying to represent not only my family, but a community as well.
To get into that as well, like I said, I do have a lot of friends in Toronto, in Vancouver, in LA that I've grown up around.
There's a great Indian community there.
Yeah, a great Indian community. And I have a lot of friends who do the turban, do have the long hair still, or grew up with it and then transitioned to where they cut it off.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on something that you just said recently, is that you said you were probably the only Indian kid in your community when you first moved there.
Yeah, the first one.
We always have, there's a lot of issues where, there's minorities and there's separation. How did you fit in? Because you didn't really have your own group of minorities that you could attach to.
I definitely didn't have my own people. I did, I had a hard time making friends, and also like I battled with a lot of like teasing and bullying just because I was so dramatically different that people hadn't seen it before, they didn't understand. And so like even playing sports, like I was often picked last, even though I was always pretty athletic, and it was hard, but there came a point where like I figured out how to like kind of embrace it and relish it, and like I liked being different. I don't know exactly when that transition happened, probably around high school.
Okay.
Because grade school was tough for me. I was just so different. And my parents, like I feel bad for them because I actually saw my mom talk about this on an interview herself, because now I guess my parents are doing interviews about me. She was talking about how they didn't have time. Like, they were great parents, but like 7 in the morning to 11 at night, 7 days a week, they worked because we were very poor.
Yeah, paycheck to paycheck.
And it was very tough. We had come to this country with nothing. My dad had a great education in London, but it didn't translate to America, right? So they worked tooth and nail. The great thing was we lived upstairs from the business that they owned, and so they could kind of trade off hanging out with us. But it was like they didn't have enough time to focus on my problems because they had to focus on making sure our family would survive and be able to stay here and give me the opportunity to do it. So, I mean, she cried about it in this interview. She was like, it was really hard because like maybe it was my fault because I didn't give him the time or the attention when he was really hurting, like when he was going through this as a kid. And I mean, I could have gone one of two ways. I could have just folded, and a lot of people mental health is a real thing, right? Like, people crumble because their mental health is not sound. I decided to, like kind of embrace the hate and do something with it, which is funny because now, I deal with online, which, most known people do.
I'm sure you deal with I'm sure you deal with the keyboard bullies.
So it's nothing like it was back then. So I guess I was I sort of got built for it.
Yeah. And then if I wanted to ask, just because I know everybody always loves to hear it, and I think as a young kid I loved hearing that too. But like how did you trajectory that hate? Did you put it into sports? Did you put it? Could you say something?
Yeah, I mean,
what could you say really helped you?
Basketball was definitely part of it. I actually remember I had this like saying where I'd be like, if I was getting bullied and I had enough, like 5th, 6th grade, I said 305 basketball courts, which was like 5 minutes after school.
Yeah.
We'll see you at the basketball courts, and then I'd take it out on the court. Sometimes that worked, sometimes that didn't. I mean, I had my scraps as a kid, like my parents put me into karate just to learn self-defense. It was tough. It was tough being different, and a lot of people, I'm surprised I don't get this question more often, even like with this project, this documentary thing that's getting worked on, like what made me cut my hair?
That was my next question.
I'm sure it was coming because you're a smart interviewer and you're going to ask me the really good questions, which is, it wasn't, the reason I cut my hair actually more than anything was because I wasn't doing it right. And what I meant by that was like, I'd go play basketball and it'd kind of get knocked off. And then as my beard grew, I like didn't take care of it very well. Like I wasn't like my dad, who was like classic, who just like had it all on lock. I was like too focused on sports and video games and all the things that
or anything else.
I was like in the
new age culture,
my own weird way. I was dealing with stuff. I was kind of making a mockery out of the whole thing. Not on purpose, but like
before you even continue,
I identified that was a problem.
That was a problem.
And then, not that I was affected by this, but 9/11 really scared my parents. because like they worked at convenience stores and you saw people like getting shot.
Yeah,
Jumping people,
the hate of
Sikh people, not as
people that had nothing to do with the actual.
Afghani people, but
Yeah.
Sikh people, right? Or getting shot as in confusion from ignorant people. It's things that we had dealt with, I had dealt with, right? So that shift, like all of this kind of like came together to like help make that decision. My parents had been sort of pushing me, which is so weird. They had sort of been pushing me to cut my hair for a couple years before I did.
You know, I was interesting for.
I cut my hair in 2003, 9/11 happened in 2001, right? They were very concerned that something was going to happen at that.
So what?
I was also now in college, right?
Yeah.
I was gone out of their, like,
Or they would see you, yeah.
right? Like, even if I was home, maybe they would have felt different. They definitely felt different by my brothers because they were still, my younger brothers that were still home. But I was away and they were worried, justifiably so. So I think all of this stuff worked together to help me make that decision eventually. But it wasn't because I was worried about being different or I had had enough or my faith has changed or anything. It wasn't any of that. It was, I wanted to do it wholeheartedly. And for some of those reasons, I couldn't do that anymore.
Let me ask you, just to even touch back on that subject, is what is the significance of the long hair, the beard, and the
that's a great question. Hair is a gift from God.
Okay.
So cutting it means that you are rejecting your gift from God. So, I mean, it's really that simple. And I went to India right before I cut my hair, and I remember like being in the community, and there I saw less people that were doing it right, meaning there were people that like had a turban and had long hair on their head, but they trimmed their beard like you and I do.
Right.
It's over. In my opinion, like
you can't do one or you got
you're either all in or you're not. And so for me, like it was going to be all in or all out. And so eventually the decision was to transition.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was raised in a Jewish culture where they don't cut your hair till you're 3.
Yeah.
So everybody thought I was a little girl.
My baby pictures, I totally like. Also, my parents put like braids in my hair, maybe just to manage their hair. But I was like, I look at baby pictures all the time. I'm like, are you guys trying to make me a female? Like, I don't understand. But
So I didn't know. I personally didn't know that they had that same connection in the Indian culture where it's your hair is
your gift.
Is your gift or your connection to God. So
it's also like I was getting really tall. I was not tall my entire grade school, but starting in high school, I grew really fast, really painfully. But like my hair was growing at the same speed. So like by the time I cut my hair was legitimately past my knees, and I'm 6'6", right? So like, I mean, it was a lot of hair. So when I cut it, I donated it, and they made a bunch of wigs out of it. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that justifies doing it, but at least I could help in some way.
Okay, yeah. And then so now you've cut your hair, you've transitioned into college, and this is also past 9/11, which was a great point to make. And now you're in college. What is the plan now? What is Ronnie even thinking?
The college plan was tough because one of my highest paying jobs before I turned 30 was actually my first job.
Really?
I was a web designer. And so like, and this is like,
this is before the
boom, right? Like it was 98, right?
Yeah.
And so I could design websites, and I could, I worked in some programming languages that like maybe a few hundred people in the world knew. It's such a new industry that way.
HTML coding.
So
and everything.
I thought that's what computer science was going to be. So I went to college to study computer science. I was actually almost went to some tech schools. I'm so glad that didn't happen. I went to UC San Diego. And I bounced the first week of computer science. I was like, this is not what I wanted it to be. What are you doing?
Because you're playing with some Legos.
Here. And so I took the classes. I realized it wasn't for me. I was like, I'm out. I got to find the next thing. And my parents, like I said, they worked so hard. I felt an obligation to like figure this out and like make them proud and all that stuff. But I couldn't. I could not figure it out, and my grades suffered. I was homesick. Like I'd lived with my two brothers my entire life. So not only had I never lived in a bedroom by myself, and my parents and I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. The 6 of us, my parents, my grandmother, and my 2 brothers and me.
So there's never not a time you don't see a family member.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden I'm by myself. I'm living with some random dude, and like he goes to sleep at 4:30 in the morning because he's a raver and a drug addict and all this stuff. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And so my grades really struggled. I couldn't find myself. And then I watched the movie Jerry Maguire. This random, dumb movie. And I was like, you know what? I want to be in sports. It's always come back to that. For me, I've always wanted to work in sports. So I'm going to be a sports agent. Where my brain went was 2 things. 1, wanted to work in sports. That was always number 1. 2 was I'd like to not struggle like my family did. I'd like to make money.
Right.
And the thing with sports was
there's not that many jobs that make a lot of money in sports.
Most of them don't.
It's like 90% of
it's such a high supply, low demand job. Did I get that right? They just did it.
Yeah.
Low supply, high demand.
Yeah,
everybody wants that gig, but so they don't have to pay. They can get really high quality because everybody wants to work in sports and be around athletes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I had to find something, and so my first answer was law, and so I went to work for a couple law firms. Hated it. I was like, "There's a goal here. Like I'll keep trying." So I applied to law school. That totally did not work out, even though I crushed the LSATs and I like did really well, got into a great school. But it became clear that this wasn't for me either. There was no creativity. It was research. I'm terrible at reading comprehension. I'm very good at logic games. That's why I did well on the LSAT, right?
Yeah.
But that didn't mean I was prepared to be a lawyer. So for 9 weeks, I went to Columbia Law School, and I knew it. It was not
It wasn't it. I wanted to be a lawyer too, originally too.
Why?
I wanted to get into business law. One was because I know I could understand comprehensive, and I knew I could sell salt to a snail, and I'd be able to really put together the story that you need to do and everything that you have to be a lawyer. I knew I could do all.
You probably were like me. You would have made a great partner. Like you would have been able to sell and litigate and all that stuff. Convince people of stuff. So that's not what law is.
It's not.
It's research and precedent and like remembering stuff. And not that I can't do any of that, but it wasn't something I was.
It wasn't as exciting as I thought it was gonna be. And then I also did a little bit more research.
I love the show Suits. I don't know if you've
Suits is amazing.
That's not realistic.
No.
And Jerry Maguire was not realistic either. So like, I had this romanticism about first computer science and then law, and they were both wrong.
Yeah, I also realized that you only make it a great money in law when you kind of protect the wrong people most of the time.
Yeah, when you're the top of the field, and there's very few lawyers that get to pick what they want to do. And
exactly.
I guess that was my third objective.
That was my first objective. I was like, if I cannot pick
what you want to do,
if I can't pick who I want to work for, who I work with.
I'm going to be in sports, which has such, so many people who want to be in that field. I want to make a lot of money, and I want to dictate what I'm doing day to day.
Yeah.
Those 3 things don't really work together very well. Like, they don't. I'm going to be honest. But I knew that I would work hard, and I'd have that advantage over everybody. Like, that I would go make it happen. If I was passionate about something. And so went to work for a couple sports teams. The second one, the first one was in women's sports, which is awesome because now Becky Hammond was on my team, who's the coach of, she was the coach of the Spurs, but now she's the coach of the Aces. She'll probably be the first women NBA head coach ever, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think she already won the championship with the Aces.
Yeah, she was the assistant coach for Greg Popovich when the Spurs, I think, won their last championship.
Nice.
But So that was my first gig. Then my second gig was I worked for a minor league baseball team, and I recruited Jose Canseco, who randomly, I was in a celebrity poker game 2 weeks ago and ran into Jose for the first time in like 24 years.
Since you recruited him?
Yeah, so crazy. I hadn't seen him since the story I'm about to tell you. I hadn't seen him in 20-something years, and him and I talked about it and had a good laugh about it a couple weeks ago. But basically what happened was I worked for this minor league team. I got Jose to join our team. And then he found out that there was another team in Long Beach where his daughter lived, and he was in a custody situation. So he asked if he could trade him over there, which was tough for me because I was so excited to like have this star to like market, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was bummed. And then he was coming back in a road game a week later. So I'm like, I'm going to get him. I don't know why I felt like this vengeance tour, but like, so I went to Vaughn's with my team that night and bought a bunch of juice boxes, and like, the book Juice has just come out where he had exposed everybody for the steroids thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, there's got to be something we can have fun with here. So we bought juice boxes and stickers of his face and like gave it away as a game day promotion. And this thing went super viral. Like ESPN, like this is before social media.
Yeah.
Or like very genesis of social media. But social media wasn't what made things viral. TV made things viral, right?
Yes.
And that was it. I was like, I get it. I know what I want to do. I want to make something out of nothing. Like, I want to do grassroots marketing. Like, how can we do stunty stuff to get the attention of masses? Everything that I had learned working for that baseball team and running game day operations, I loved that. I loved putting on a show.
Right.
That was what I really had started to like lean towards. And so like I went home and had this conversation with my parents, and they thought I was absolutely batshit crazy. They're like, you're in a top 5 law school, you're working for great law firms, and you want to give that up. How could you do that? Like, we worked so hard. Why is this the decision? I'm like, you just give me a little time. The other thing is I had 2 younger brothers, right? Like, so like, and they were going through college, and part of it was like,
and you're the example as
set an example,
yeah.
Right? And I was the first in my family to go to college in America. Like, there was a lot of things that were like hovering, and my parents, to their credit, have never told me to go do anything except they always wanted me to marry an Indian girl, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute. But other than that, they never said, you have to do this. Like, they were always like, you should not work in sports and go to postgraduate school.
Yeah.
But they never said.
But they weren't twisting your arm and forcing it.
Yeah, they were like, all right, fine. Go take a stab at this.
Yeah.
And I guess the rest is history.
Nice. Okay. And then then you finished school. Did you end up finishing law school?
9 weeks. I dropped out.
9 weeks. Did you get your bachelor's?
I did the jobs, and then I saw this position. Basically, the league folded after that just because minor league sports is so hard. And I moved back to Northern California to figure out what I wanted to do. And this job with 2K popped up. Meanwhile, I'd been playing 2K since the Dreamcast.
Is this before or after the Allen Iverson cover?
So the Allen Iverson was on our first 5 covers.
Right, you're right, he did 2K,
2K1, 2K2, 2K3, 2K4.
Yeah, maybe that was 2K2 that I had.
So the first one I played was 2K, but the one I had a lot of time to play, probably because of this transition in career, was 2K5, and I was top 10 in the leaderboards in the world, and I was in the forums. I was like a psychotic 2K fan.
Okay.
But I had a day job too, right? So like I was balancing what most kids do. This is not anything impressive. Have a job, go home and play your favorite video game, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, but everything I was learning I was like, there's something special about this franchise. They're connected to the fan better than, like, EA was the big...
EA Live at the time was right before.
EA launched every amazing game. I played most of them. Like,
yeah.
I was like, oh my god, EA is the shit.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's going to take that out of context. But, like, EA for me as a kid was, and for anybody in that generation was the thing. And I mean, the first basketball video game I played was NBA Jam, which was an EA.
I know, it's everybody's favorite in the early 90s.
So to go work for a company that I saw the value that 2K was, which was we were more innovative. We had a better development team. Like, we were scrappy. We were like, this is more exciting to me based on what I just said about the whole grassroots marketing thing. I was more interested in the underdog.
Yeah.
That's
They're
where
more new
that's
age.
where I EA just felt like a structure for me. And so I and it was 10 minutes from where I grew up. And I'm like everything kind of fit together. So then I went and interviewed. I wore a suit. And everybody's like, what the fuck? What are you doing? Like, this is a video game company. Nobody dresses in suits. But, and they were like, we know of you already. We've seen you in the forums. We just want to make sure that you were professional.
Yeah, I was a dude
for, like, like, you were more than just a gamer. You're hired. Like, done. Wasn't much of an interview. I interviewed a couple people, but, like, they just wanted to see that, because this job was to run the forums. It wasn't to be what it is now.
Yeah,
it was to run.
It's to be the connection to
the fans.
Yeah,
but at the most core level.
Yeah,
like,
and that's when forums are huge.
That's who I was. That's what I had been doing anyway. I was on the forums. I was like, oh, cool. I get paid to do what I've been doing anyway. That's cool. Sure, I'll do that. I have these great plaques on my wall, which is shows our sales in discs. So for every million discs million sales, we have one disc. I have these plaques in my bedroom. That's insane. You see the growth. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, just keeps going until, now we have 30 million people playing our game.
And I want to say the involvement of that type of identity that you have created transitions over to your fans now, because you guys have the My2K and the people that feel like they actually live in that game and play in that game, and they're part of
that's great. That's a great point. The way that I played 2K before I joined 2K was I played as the Warriors and you played as the Lakers, and we'd play 5-on-5 and we'd control one player and we'd control teams,
Yeah.
Now it's all about my player, and you play as yourself, and you build a role, and you fit in with another team. You're Ronnie playing with Kobe, and how does that work together? That changed our franchise. And it was so in line with what the NBA was doing, right? The NBA started investing into their stars. You didn't care about people until Magic and Larry came about, and then MJ. But then really LeBron, Steph, this generation, the stars, but you also know
their backstories.
But you also know the lesser players too.
Oh yeah.
You really do.
Now you know everybody, even the playing on the bench.
Everybody has built brands, right? And social is a big part of that. But what a perfect time for us to tell you can be the brand in 2K. And then also look at this guy, Ronnie, who he is the epitome of a brand within a brand. If he can do it, you can do it in this game. You know what I mean? All of this kind of connected together in a really nice way. It was not on purpose. It was lots of coincidences that sort of matched up. I'll never forget the first time I had a conversation about, hey, I'm going to start a Twitter account. I mean, you look back and it's this doesn't happen unless I start a Twitter account, right?
Right, exactly.
And the conversation was so silly. They're like, oh, sure, we don't know what Twitter is. Knock yourself out. Nobody knew.
Were you I'm going to take the forums over to
what Twitter was? What I realized with the forums quickly was I'm talking to the same 12 people every day. And those 12 people are super important.
Yeah.
But how do I grow that 12 into 50 and 100 and 200? For a long time, if you look at my early tweets, they were all directed back to the forums. I was like, hey, I'm talking about this subject here. Come, But then after a while, I'm like, why am I directing them? I have a bigger audience here. Let me just say what I want to say. Let me interact with these people one-on-one, one-on-six, one-on whatever.
Yeah, and just
That's what how Twitter works. Like, you just at them and done, right? And then eventually I was like, I'm just going to say stuff. And they can put it on the forums, like off the forums. Like,
let them
they'll
transition.
copy paste, they'll put it on the forums, they'll put it everywhere else too.
Yeah.
I am a sounding board that I'm leveraging my Twitter audience to leverage the news that we need to get out there. And that was that evolution, like that's how it happened.
You want to let her in? You probably let her in, Lewis.
She wants to go out there.
Oh.
It's fine, let her. She's just so bullheaded.
So, going back into this boom, so you guys actually, met the Twitter boom, met the Instagram boom, and then the 2K boom.
Yeah.
And like you said, 2K had already known you. You have already been on the forums. You've already been known as a 2K player. You said top 10 in the leaderboard, which was crazy.
Yeah. It's not, now it's crazy. Back then,
yeah.
We're talking about 1 million people, probably not even, right?
Right.
But
even still, top 10, even if it's out of 100, it's still crazy, right? It's still pretty talented.
Yeah.
So my question to you right now is, at what point in time did you blink and reflect that I'm getting stopped in the middle of the street by a kid to take a picture with him? And how did that resonate with you? Because did you ever think that would be a thing?
That was not supposed to be the thing. I'm pretty private. For a long time, talking about my family and my now wife, right? Like, I didn't ever put anybody else out there, especially like as I got heat for things that I didn't really have anything to do with, right? Like, I wanted to protect our brand. I wanted to be like, ignore these people that actually make the game or do whatever. Ignore my family. Let me be the vehicle for your happiness, pain, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever your feelings are for this brand, let me be
somebody they can take their last shot.
Yeah. The fame of that was not supposed to be.
They were just somebody who's going to tweet you.
It was not supposed to happen. I was supposed to be faceless, But then when I started doing content and you see me with the NBA players who, I didn't really want to be friends with them. I'm not a jock sniffer. And you know what? Nobody ever calls me that because they see the relationships are really real. And I have friends in the league and I have friends that are not, I have non-friends in the league, meaning I don't really care whether they're NBA players or not.
Yeah, no, you treat everybody equal.
Be friends with whoever I want to be friends with. So, I've always said, I'm very close with, Karl Anthony Towns and Paul George and Harrison and, some others. That doesn't change. I don't put them on the cover. Unless they deserve it. We just have we go to dinner, we hang out. We're just boys, right? But yeah, going back to your question, the fame was not the consequence. I don't remember exactly when it started happening, but mid 2010s. But I really started picking up 2K16, 2K17, and then, then it got a little scary when I got hacked and all that stuff, and people had my address and stuff like that. There's negatives to that, and that's why I wanted to protect against it. But there were so many positives. I have never really had a bad in-person interaction with a fan. It's amazing what this franchise has done for people. Even when, people get frustrated, it's the frustration comes from a good place too. It comes from a place of I grew up on this game. I love this game. I expect so much. You've actually over-delivered over and over again, so I'm going to ask for more. It's a natural human instinct, right? So, I resonate with that. I'm one of them. I want more of this franchise, too. Let's, bring it on. I think the first time it sort of went national with me was, the Hassan Whiteside thing for 2K14, I believe it was. He was on a Sunday, April game, and he had a huge game on ABC, triple-double with blocks instead of assists. A huge game. And they asked him after the game, they're like, why'd you have such a great game? And he said, I was trying to get my 2K rating up. And then in post-game interviews, they're like, who motivates you? And he said, me. And they're like, and most of the media was like, who the hell is that? And, and the next day he went on Goal Like a Goal, and he had been followed by all these celebrities, including Rihanna and stuff. And he kept talking about me. It was like, but like, it became clear at that point, it's like, this is a 19-year-old at the time.
Yeah.
He's played this game his whole life like me.
Yeah, he just wants to see the person that he believes in that game, the way he believes it should be.
That whole world is crazy still to me, though, and I talk a lot about it in this project that I keep referencing, but like, it's, for a long time when I would game, even when I was competitive gamer before I started at 2K, and I would put clips out there and people would be like, whoa, you are awesome, or you suck, or whatever the reaction was. I still don't understand why I was getting a reaction, or why like anybody gets a reaction. Like, why are streamers successful now? Why does anybody care? And like, it became apparent to me that there was a world there, because like, if I could from the crowd watch Michael Jordan play basketball, but not only watch, but be like, hey, Michael, you have to shoot right now, and I'll give you subs or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm declaring that outcome and he's going to do it, like, if I get to hang out with Michael Jordan and, like, get him to do stuff because I told him to,
yeah,
I get it. That's awesome. Like, that's why people watch favorite streamers. So, like, guys like Aiden and Kai Cenat and all these guys that are this generation of streamers who are honestly, like, so brave to be putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
Have found so much success and are so entertaining and, like, in a way, admirable as well.
Yeah, and no, to go even touch on that subject, I was actually...
I know, by the way, a lot of those guys came from 2K. Every single one I've just mentioned, including Flight, Speed, all these guys that you see pop up on House of Highlights, Bleacher Report, etc. Every single one started
playing 2K.
It's crazy.
I know there was a huge My Player boom in the Twitch.
Yes.
In the streaming.
We gave them a toolkit to, like, tell their story, and the ones that were successful in the streaming world and now have moved on to, like, real IRL streaming got their practice by telling the story of their own character in the game.
Yeah.
And, like, streaming that. And so, like, that's why they've been so successful IRL streaming, because they were IRL streaming about a video game. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
So it's really cool to see how that's also not an intended thing. Like, we didn't expect to be a foster ground of this generation of streamers.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing to see.
Text where if you were like, what's your favorite NBA team?
I'm not really allowed to have one.
Oh, you're right. What's your favorite football
when I was
team?
a kid, I'm a huge Niners fan.
That's where we go. You're Niners. Let's go. Because I want you to really take the context of this question.
Yeah.
So your favorite football team is the Niners.
So
now, say you buy the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Do you switch?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because you've been saying that's my team, but you don't own that team.
Well, what's funny is, like, that is a dream of mine. I don't have very many things that I want to accomplish left that I'm not already working on and, like, heavily, like, way down the path on.
Yeah.
That's one. Like,
owning a team, a sports team.
It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. It doesn't have to happen. I'm putting things in place to make it happen eventually.
It's on my book.
But it's not a today or anytime. I still have a lot to accomplish at 2K and some of the other stuff. But do I become I guess it's hard not to, but in that case, no, I'd still be a Niners fan.
You still be a Niners fan?
In that case.
So, Niners, your team going to the Super Bowl. What are you doing?
If I went and owned an NBA team right now, I would be their fan for every other team. The Niners is a tough one. Oh, yeah, if my team faced the Niners in the Super Bowl, that'd be so hard. It'd be so hard.
Still with the Niners?
It'd be really difficult. It'd be difficult. Dude, I get invited to games all the time by NFL guys, and anytime I get asked to a Niners game, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to insult this guy because I'm going to be in the family section for the Chargers and wearing Niners.
Well, that was
Like, they ain't going to like that. So, no, that's a really tough one. I don't know what I would do in that situation, but I'm pretty sure I'd stick with the Niners.
you still take it and stick with it. So there's no switching to mine to
You
you.
could just give me some,
Stone.
yeah, I can get into their ownership group.
Yeah, I'm not.
Make life easier.
Yeah, I want to get into the soccer game. The owners in the soccer team. But those are fun, especially you see Ryan Reynolds about a.
Yeah, I mean, the way you change that franchise is crazy.
Yeah, but that's always cool.
No, I think there's a great opportunity with WNBA. Obviously, I was having those. Like, I asked Mark Cuban about it. I was like, "Hey, I want to get involved in this world."
And WNBA game. I mean, what do you think is the future of the WNBA as far as the notoriety goes? Because it's never been. Growing up, I've had countless and countless friends make the WNBA, and I played with all these girls, and they're so talented.
I think people want to aspire to something that exists, right? And so, like, the WNBA's problem to date, before this year, has been enough talent that they can aspire to.
So much.
In the last few years, you got players like Asia and Sabrina, and obviously Caitlin now. Angel, there's so many, and like the talent boom has been extraordinary. Now, hopefully, they can just, like, here's the thing. You don't want to market only when you're booming.
Yeah.
So, like, anybody could market a good product, right? Like, I mean, you can say that about 2K. I've had the great fortune and luck of getting to market an amazing product. That being said, like, we had down years, and people might forget that. Like, we had hard years where we weren't winning. And those are the years I get more excited about.
Yeah.
Like, I love the ability or the thought about growth. I just want the W to be very serious, and I know they are because I know their leadership. Terry Jackson is amazing. There's a lot
of amazing things in the last 2 years.
Amazing. They just gotta, like, push that envelope. This is your time. Like. And by the way, you know what else I say that for? Streamers, right? Like, there's some streamers that get very frustrated. I'm sure you've probably seen, like, when I go back to my high school to mentor or grade school to mentor, whenever I go speak to kids, which I love doing, and I try to do it as often as I can. My first question, obviously, is like, what do you want to be for when you grow up? Because I didn't know, right? Like, and my big piece of advice to them often is. That's not the point, but I'm going to say it anyway. The big piece of advice I give kids is don't ever get down, because two things. One, you can't screw up in your 20s unless you do something really, really dumb.
Yeah.
Right? And two, your career that they preach so hard about vocational education and, like, you're learning chemistry and biology and obviously very important subjects, but your career might not exist, and what you're learning, it might not be relevant to what you do. I mean, I'm not yelling at school, because there are skill sets, especially from law school, that I got that still help me today, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't learn anything about social media or grassroots marketing in high school or college.
It wasn't a thing.
I had to learn every day after school's over. Your education's never over, right? So that's the advice I give them. The reason I bring them up is because the first question I ask them is, what do you all want to be when you grow up? Because I didn't know, right? And all of them say, I want to be a YouTuber. That's it now. It used to be, when it was my age, I want to be an athlete.
Yeah.
Or,
everyone's a pro athlete,
I wanted to go to space, right?
Yeah.
Like, every generation it's different. The thing about streamers, it looks easy.
Man.
It is so much work, and, like,
so demanding.
To get the ball rolling is tough. To keep the ball rolling is even tougher. It's like, that's why I admire these guys so much. I really do. And I admire ones that haven't made it yet either, because, like, it takes a certain gusto to believe that you want to do something. Wake up every day and do it when nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Like,
it really brings I mean, it brings it to a whole new category of like, you know, maybe if you wanted to be a singer, you go perform.
Yeah.
There's nobody shows up. Okay, cool. You know, you didn't sell enough tickets, but to go every day and put something up and then not have no views until you start getting those million views. That's
all
what
these industries have it, right?
Yeah.
The work that happens while nobody's watching is the most important work. And so, like, people see the, you know, the forward-facing stuff I do, the athletes, the celebs. There was a tremendous amount of grind, both by the company and myself on our own paths, right? That got us to a place where we are part of that cultural conversation. That didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen easily. But, you know, it's critical. Like, people are seeing it now and talking about 2K as, you know, cultural lifestyle brand, but the work that went into it, I'm just so grateful for the people I work with that over the generations that participated in that, to turn us into what we are today, and honestly turn me into what I am today as well.
And you know, it's only going to keep getting bigger too. Yeah. That's what we really love. So as we wrap things up, first, I don't know if you want to take, you know, I brought you a bottle of the good juice there, Cristiano tequila.
I love juice. So no, it's too early for that. The sun's
There's still sun out. It's 5 p.m. sober sometimes.
True.
We brought you some good stuff, some
so
good.
much work to do today.
Man, me and you both. But I do want to close out this conversation with back on where I don't want to go too in depth, which I love your wife. She's the most amazing person in the world.
She really is.
She makes amazing food. And but I do want to just pick your brain, and I don't want to go too much into your personal life because I know how private you are.
Yeah.
But I do want to pick your brain of when a Ronnie Jr. comes into the
Oh God.
into the mix.
Yeah.
Are you gonna influence the long hair, or
Oh, that's a great question.
at a younger age, let him go through the culture?
About that a little bit. I mean, I would want to give somebody the option, but I feel like it might be a little bit of a struggle because they don't see it in their own father.
Right. Will you introduce them to religion, into that religion
Well,
at an early age?
faith for sure.
Faith.
Yeah, because my parents did, and you know, I think it helped shape the foundation to, you know, everything that happened. My dad still has his turban.
What about your brothers?
My brothers do not.
Okay.
Their kids, they all have kids. They all cut their hair.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they have a great role model to look up to in my dad. But yeah, I don't know. Her and I have talked about it a little bit, but she'd be down for it for sure. I don't know. I don't want them to see, like, kids are very impressionable. They want to see it in their own role models. So, you know, I wonder if that would be a confusing message, but.
No, it's because, you know, the first light would think, 6, 8 years. The parents typically have a control as far as like impressions. They like how they wear their hair.
I went to the temple every Sunday, and usually most Wednesdays as well. So you got to
essentially the first time you cut his hair would be your decision.
Foundation. What's that?
It's essentially the first time he cuts his hair would be your decision if you wanted to do it at a younger age.
That is true. Yeah, he's not cutting his hair at 9 months or 3 years, like your example. Yeah, it's a great question. I'm gonna ask her about that when we're off. Yeah, pick up this conversation.
Take it in with her and see what she says. All right, well, we're gonna wrap up with things. I appreciate you so much for taking your time out.
Anytime. It was a great interview. I appreciate it.
A bunch of gifts. Lewis, could you grab me the jackets?
Yes.
So I brought you. Remember, I told you I made this sample jacket with 2 different sizes because I didn't know which size needed. So I brought you both sizes so you can try it on. Let me know which you like.
The pink one.
And then brought you the hat to match. It's so one's a 2X, one's a 3X. Everything's over. Oh no, one's an XL.
Well, one fit my very small wife because she loves pink too.
Hey, we got matching jackets.
Still.
So
that's so pink denim.
Yep, pink denim, a little distressed. So. We on there? Yep. So one.
Look. Oh yeah, look at that.
The one
sleeve on this fire.
Yeah. So these are samples. I sampled these earlier this year. So if they release, you guys will see them and we'll announce it. But for right now,
super.
Seeing Ronnie and Mrs. 2K are the one that are gonna be wearing them around.
Yep.
And then, of course, you have your hats and all the good stuff. It's a quick cleaning. I know I brought you this before. I don't know if you've ever used it.
Yeah.
For shoes.
Yeah.
So you got some more in here. And then you got some glasses and some good old tequila.
Wow. Amazing.
And I appreciate you so much. And until next time, guys, of course, we're here with Ronnie. 2K. Don't forget to buy 2K25.
Yep.
2K25 is out. And don't forget to do my player. Maybe we'll see the questions in it. I'm just kidding. Until next time, guys, thank you for tuning in on Mic'd Up. And we are out.
Amazing.